Welcome to Millennium Daytime Bulletin. I'm Shweta Simar from New Delhi and you're watching Millennium News Channel 24. Today I'm bringing you the latest news from around the world. Let's begin with today's top headlines. Syria is free of dictator. The rebels' biggest challenge now is learning how to govern. Assad planned to abandon the government. China's maritime movement around Taiwan are largest in decades, Taipei says. South Korea's ruling party discusses Yoon resigning in February before snap election. More than 300 Israeli strikes on Syria since fall of Assad. The case for Donald Trump's tariff. Trump has big plans at home, but Syria shows why he can't escape the world's problems. Mixed signal in global markets at US indices dip and Latin America outperforms. Shohei Ohtani will hit but not pitch in LA Dodgers season openers. Norths sign Australian fast bowling all-rounder O'Neill. Now let's look at the details. The sound of celebratory gunfire filled the streets of Damascus in the hours following the collapse of President Bashar al-Assad regimes. But the jubilant scenes at the weekend that greeted the end of half a century of tyranny could not mask the scale of challenge facing the victorious Islamist rebels whose lightning advance on the Syrian capital captured the world's attention. Those rebels led by group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham HTS must now try to unite a countries cleaved apart by more than a decade of civil war, one in which dozens of heavily armed militants and remittents of the old regime linger. The chaos that followed in the hours after the capital's fall gave a stark reminder of the enormity of that task. At least 28 people were killed by the celebratory gunfire, the Syrian health minister told Al Arabiya news channel. Meanwhile, civilians broke into Assad's palaces, looted stolen bags and central banks, prompting the rebels to declare a 13-hour curfew. By nightfall, other than the occasional stray bullet, silence was punctuated by and in the city through strategic weapon systems, residual chemical weapons capabilities and long-ranging rockets that belonged to Assad's army. The gunfire went on for 11 hours. After 4 hours, I broke down crying, and as soon as I started drying down, the Israelis started bombing us, a 25-year-old lawyer and resident of an upscale Damascus neighborhood told Millennium, asking to remain anonymous for safety reasons. The rebels had dreamt of this day for years, but even they appear to have been surprised by the speed and ease of their advance. Now their rush is to keep the lid on Syria's Pandora's box, avoid a power vacuum and prevent the sort of chaos that almost inevitably arises when a 50-year-old regime topples in a matter of days. After the capture of Damascus, the rebels instructed Assad's Prime Minister Mohammad Ghazi al-Jalali to continue his duties alongside his cabinet until a transitional team is assigned. But Jalali had few answers on the future of the city's governance when he spoke to Sky News Arabia. His colleagues seemed equally unsure. We spoke to the Prime Minister and the direction was that works should continue. We are adamant that normal life returns. We have heard that transitional government will be formed, but we don't know when. The Assad government Minister of Industry Mohammad Samir Al-Khalil told Millennium in a phone interview. The vacuum facing the rebels could even be seen as a parting gift from Assad, who has not issued any public statement since the rebel advances began 2 weeks ago, appeared to have planned to abandon his government, his people of his country, and leave it in chaos. If the situation deteriorated, his prime minister said, perhaps to send a message to the people that it is either me or chaos. Jalali said he had spoken to Assad hours before the president fled to Moscow to express concerns about the rebels' movement, but the president was indifferent. When I told him about the situation, that the situation is critical, people are fleeing homes towards the coast and the armed forces have collapsed, his response was, "We'll attend to it tomorrow," the Prime Minister said. I was surprised. Jelani's arrival in Damascus Saturday marked his first return to the city where he was raised since leaving 2 decades ago to join Al Qaeda's fight against US forces in Iraq. 4 years he has led Al Qaeda's affiliate in Syria, the Al Nusra Front, but he eventually split from it, declared war on its rival ISIS, and orchestrated the killing of its leader. Now he is sending a message of transformation and moderation, telling CNN last week that Syria's armed opposition ultimately plans to form a government defined by institutions and council chosen by the people. China has fielded its largest regional maritime deployment in decades, Taiwan's defense ministry said Tuesday, as it monitors what it comes and says is the surge of Chinese military activities in Taiwan Strait and the Western Pacific. Taiwan has been on high alert since Monday as it braced for expected military drills after President Lai Ching-te sparked Beijing's ire by making unofficial stops in Hawaii and the US territory of Guam earlier this month. Taiwan on Monday said multiple formations of Chinese naval and coast guard vessels were moving in regional water around Taiwan Strait. Beijing has not announced military drills or acknowledged the large-scale deployment cited by Taipei. China's ruling Communist Party claims the self-governing democracy of Taiwan as its own territory despite never having controlled it. It has not ruled out taking the island by force. It views unofficial interactions between Washington and Taipei as a violation of its sovereignty. Taiwan's leadership rejects China's territorial claims over it. An astonishing number of Chinese vessels have been deployed at a scale that could block external forces. Lieutenant General He Jiesheng, Deputy Chief of General Staff for Intelligence, said at a Taipei Defense Ministry briefing on Tuesday, the People's Liberation Army (PLA) naval deployment was not only targeting Taiwan, he said, adding that the geographic spread stretched into waters past the Fire First Island chain. The strategically significant island encompasses Japan, Taiwan, parts of Philippines and Indonesia. As long it's been a key plank in the US territory. Its position is very vital. PLA's recent activities not only exerted military pressure on Taiwan, its naval forces specifically have significantly raised its posture around Taiwan and Western Pacific, he said. China's ability to block outside forces from entering the first island chain could pose a survival threat to China and Taiwan, and even the Chinese invasion potentially causing harm to the island. The maritime deployment was the largest since China began holding large-scale games around Taiwan in mid-1990s, according to the ministry. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol ruling party said on Tuesday that it was discussing Yoon's potential resignation as early as February after his botched martial law attempt and holding a snap election in April or May. Yoon has apologized for last week's martial law declaration that triggered a political crisis and pledged to leave his fate to People's Power Party (PPP), but has not resigned. He is now subject to criminal investigations over insurrection charges and was banned from leaving the country and faces a second impeachment vote planned for Saturday. Lee Yang-soo, who chairs a PPP task force launched on Monday to map out Yoon's eventual and orderly departure, said his team proposed the idea of having Yoon resign in February or March and holding an election 2 months later. South Korea's constitution requires an election between and within 60 days of his departure if Yoon's leave office before his single 5-year term ends in May 2027. We have not yet reached a conclusion party-wide and will have another meeting with all our members of parliament in the afternoon to discuss what is the plan. Lee told reporters, "We have not reached a conclusion party-wide and we will have a meeting to understand what and how things will proceed in the future." The idea came 3 days after PPP leader Han Dong-hoon said the president would be excluded from foreign and other state affairs. The Prime Minister Han Duck-soo would oversee the government. The main opposition Democratic Party (DP) criticized the announcement, saying it is unconstitutional and Yoon must be impeached or resign and face legal prosecutions. It plans to table another impeachment bill on Saturday, the second impeachment bill, after last week's first vote failed due to the PPP's boycott. When asked about the PPP's proposal, DP leader Lee said and told reporters that he was unsure if the public will accept the idea of keeping such a serious criminal in office. Until then, a DP spokesperson also issued a statement dismissing the plan as absurd, saying the PPP has no authority to craft any roadmap for Yoon's departure and the only available option is to impeach him. Israeli warplanes have reportedly carried out hundreds of airstrikes across Russia, China, including the capital Damascus. The UK-based Syrian Observatory of Human Rights says it was and has documented more than 310 strikes by the IDF since the fall of Assad's regime on Sunday. The strikes have targeted military facilities of the Syrian army, including weapons warehouses, ammunition depots, airports, naval bases, and research centers. Israel says its actions are to prevent weapon failing and into the hands of extremists as Syria's transition into a post-Assad era. It reported that the attack spanned Aleppo, Damascus, and Hama, with more than 60 taking places overnight between Monday and Tuesday alone. Reports say that many of the facilities hit have not merely been damaged but completely destroyed. Rami Abdul Rahman, the founder of the SOHR, described the impact of the strikes as destroying all the capabilities of Syrian army and said the Syrian lands are being violated. The IDF denied that its troops had stayed into Syrian territory, telling the BBC that reports of tanks near Damascus are false. IDF troops are stationed within the buffer zone as stated in the past, a spokesperson said. On Monday, Israeli military released photos of its troops who crossed from the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights and into the demilitarized buffer zone in Syria, where UN peacekeepers and are based. IDF seizure of Syrian position in the buffer zone was a temporary defensive position until a stable and suitable arrangement is found. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu also said, "If we can establish neighborly relations and peaceful relations with the new forces emerging in Syria, that's our desire. But if we do not, we will do whatever it takes to defend the state of Israel and the border of Israel, he said on Monday. President-elect Donald Trump views tariff as not so secret weapon, one that can be deployed to pressure friends and foes alike to address issues from drug trafficking and illegal immigration to threats to the dominance of US dollar. Trump once dubbed himself tariff man and recently celebrated these import taxes as the greatest thing ever invented. Trump's love of tariff and more specifically the threat of tariffs reflect a high risk, high reward strategy that's designed to build maximum pressure on other nations, forcing them to come to the negotiating table. And there is a case to be made for using tariff as a potent bargaining chip, albeit one that risks raising prices or consumer already hurting from the high cost of living. The United States import from about 3 trillion worth of goods each year. The specter of tariff can create real leverage with nations whose economies would be crushed if they suddenly couldn't sell goods to Americans because Trump just imposed a 100% tariff on them. If we couldn't trade with Mexico, we would survive, but it would be the end of world for Mexico. That does just give us leverage, and leverage is everything when you are negotiating. Stephen Moore, a former senior economic advisor during Trump's first term, told CNN on a phone interview, Moore, who used to unabashedly favor free trade, said Trump convinced him that tariffs can be used as a negotiating tool. It's a dangerous game, one that could work, said Moore, author of The Trump Economic Miracle. In the first term, President Trump instituted tariffs against China that created jobs, spurred investment, and resulted in no inflation. President Trump will work quickly to fix and restore an economy that puts American workers by reshoring American jobs, lowering inflation, raising real wages, lowering taxes and cutting regulations, and unshackling American energy, Carolyn, spokesperson for Trump once transition, told Millennium. Even the normally brash Donald Trump seems disconcerted by the volatile international situation he'll inherit as the new president next month, and to which he's certain to inject new unprecedentability. It certainly seems like the world is going to be a little crazy right now, the president-elect said Saturday when he met French President Emmanuel Macron in Paris as he climbed back onto the global stage for his second go-around. The stunning fall of the al-Assad dynasty in Syria on Sunday created new and treacherous circumstances that will demand Trump's attention despite his wish to disengage the US from dangerous Middle Eastern war zones, and will likely provide an immediate test of his foreign policy goals and acumen in January. This is far our not fight, let it play out, let's not get involved, Trump wrote Saturday on Truth Social in block capital letters as rebels raced towards the Syrian capital of Damascus. His comment was characteristic of a foreign policy backlash against nearly 2 decades of US wars in the Middle East and South Asia. But as a global power in an integrated world economy with the US enemy seeking to dilute American influence, there may also come a time when America's interests mean Trump has no choice but to get involved diplomatically, if not militarily. When it becomes a national security interest and a threat to the United States, then we would get involved, Republican Senate Markwin Mullen, a key Trump ally, said on CNN's State of the Union on Sunday. And the sudden reordering of Middle East geopolitics could offer opening for Trump's another international goals, including his renewal of his confrontation with Iran. In the weekend social media post, the president-elect also highlighted how the toppling of President Bashar al-Assad was a defeat for Russia's and pushed President Vladimir Putin to cut his losses by ending the war in Ukraine. But Trump's first-term policies and his plans for his second term, including those laid out in his first major TV interview since the election, which was taped on Friday before Assad's ouster, show that he sees the world as and its crisis through a win-loss prism for the United States. In the wide-ranging interview with NBC's Kristen Welker on NBC's Meet the Press, which aired on Sunday, he examined that Ukraine should possibly prepare for less aid with him in power and would commit to staying in NATO only if other members pay their bills and treat us fairly. He underscored his America First outlook by previewing his plans to prioritize the mass deportation of migrants with criminal record and to end birthright citizenship. Now bringing you the latest updates on today's market trends. Today's global market delivered a mixed performance reflecting varying regional trends. In the Americas, the major US indices took a hit. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped by 240 points or 0.54%, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq fell 0.62%. The S&P 500 mirrored the downward trajectory with a 0.61% decline. Even in Russell 2000, a key benchmark for smaller US companies, slid 0.67%. Volatility as measured by the VIX was marginally down by 0.08%, suggesting a muted reaction despite the sell-off. Canada's S&P Composite Index was also posed a loss, shedding 0.26%, reflecting broader North American sentiment. However, the decline was less steep compared to US indices. In sharp contrast, Latin American markets provided a bright spot. Brazil's Bovespa rose 0.24%, signaling investor confidence despite the global volatility. Mexico's S&P BMV IPC soared by 1.6%, making it to standout performer in the region. This robust gain could indicate strong domestic drivers such as economic resilience or favorable trade dynamics. Overall, while US market grapple with challenges possibly linked to rising bond yields and economic uncertainty, the Latin American rally suggests a diversification in global investor focus. Eyes now turn to Europe and Asia Pacific market to gauge how this trend evolves overnight. Today's ETF market showcased a mix of trends with the significant activity centered around Chinese equities and cryptocurrency spaces. Leading the pack, the T-Rex 2X Inverse MSTR Daily Target ETF surged by an impressive 14.40%, reflecting strong demand for inverse strategies tied to MicroStrategy. This may signal bearish sentiment on Bitcoin-related equities as crypto remains volatile. Chinese-focused ETF saw remarkable gains. The iShare China Large Cap ETF XI rose 8.22%, and the CraneShare CSI China's Internet ETF jumped by 10.04%. These gains suggest renewed investor optimism in China's tech and large cap sectors, possibly fueled by improved sentiments regarding the country's economic recovery or policy easing. The Direxion Daily Tesla Bull posted a modest gain of 0.3%, indicating lukewarm bullish sentiments for Tesla in a volatile broader market. However, iShares Bitcoin Trust ETF fell sharply, down 5.31%. This steep drop underscores the challenges faced by cryptocurrencies amid global regulatory scrutiny and declining risk appetite. These movements reflect a clear bifurcation in ETF market behavior, resilience and growth in Chinese sector, and selective bearishness in cryptocurrency and related equities. This dynamic suggests that investors are seeking opportunities in recovering markets while pulling back into high risk areas. As we move forward, market participants will watch closely for signs of stabilization in the crypto spaces and further developments in China's economic policies. We'll be right back after a short break. I'm Shweta Simar from New Delhi. Keep watching Millennium Daytime Bulletin.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Welcome back after the break. I'm Shweta Simar from New Delhi and you're watching Millennium Daytime Bulletin. Shohei Ohtani should be ready to hit when the Los Angeles LA Dodgers open their season in Japan. But it's very unlikely to be pitching by March. It's just gonna be too early of a ramp up. There's an inning limit, a workload management part to think he's gonna go wire to wire from Tokyo in March through the end of October. It's hard to imagine whether and without a stoppage in the middle of season, manager Dave Roberts said Monday at the winter meetings. Superstar Ohtani has not pitched since 2023 after undergoing elbow surgery. Most recently, he underwent a procedure to repair a torn labrum in his left shoulder on November 5. Asked if Ohtani's recent shoulder surgery had slowed his return to the mound, Dodgers general manager Brandon Gomes responded, "Not that much, seemingly. Early season games are very important, but we will feel like if we can get him to a position where he is peaking towards the end of the season. That is the ideal scenario," Gomes added. According to MLB.com, despite taking a break from pitching while recovering from elbow surgery, Ohtani helped the Dodgers to the best record in the major before helping LA to its 8th World Series title with just his batting. This year, the 30-year-old captured the 3rd MVP award of his career and first in the National League after a historic season in which he became the first player in MLB history to have a 50-50 season, hitting 50 home runs and stealing 50 bases in a single campaign. As the first designed hitter to win MVP honors, Ohtani posted a batting .310 average, stole 49 bases and led the National League with the franchisee record 54 home runs and 130 RBIs. Fast bowling all-rounder Fergus O'Neill will play for Nottinghamshire for the first month of the year county championship. The Australian was named as Victoria's Player of the Season after taking 40 Sheffield Shield wickets at an average of 17.25 last term, a haul that included 5 wickets in each innings in the victory over South Australia. His performance saw him named the Bradman Young Cricketer of the Year at the Australian Cricket Awards. The 23-year-old also has a top score of 70 not out with the bat and his average 22 is the ongoing Sheffield Shield season. North's head coach Peter Moores said the club is hoping the short-term deals will become a more permanent relationship. It looks like he's improving all the time and I think his style of bowling will work well in the early season condition in England, said Moores. His strengths are the consistency and lateral movement, where the ideal skills to complement the rest of our bowling unit. He's more than capable with the bat too and will bolster our lower middle order from which runs are crucial, especially early in the season. Moores added O'Neill, who will be available for home games against Durham, Essex and Sussex and the trip to Warwickshire, will provide cover for Dane Patterson, who will miss the start of the season because of international commitments with South Africa. That's all for now. Thank you for tuning in. Stay with us for more updates. Log in to stay updated with the latest news on our social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, Millennium News 24. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel Millennium News 24. You can watch us on Android and iOS devices as well as on Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV and all smart TV platforms. Enjoy entertainment and latest news with us. Download the Millennium TV app, Millennium TV USA for Android and Millennium TV on Google. Thank you for being part of Millennium News 24.